How you doing?
And everybody, and welcome to St George's Park for this squad announcement ahead of the Euro 2024 qualifiers against Italy and Ukraine. Joined by Gareth Southgate, and we'll get right underway first with Rob Dorsett from Sky Sports News.
Gareth, good to see you. Rob. Ivan Toney gets a recall, which a lot of people will be pleased to see. I think few would argue that his performances on the pitch don't deserve it, but I think you'll probably understand the wider controversy around this when the FA have listed so many charges against him for alleged breaching rules, and he might have to have some time out of the game at some point in the future. He has admitted to some of those charges, we understand. So can you explain your thinking on that one for us, please?
Well, the fact is he's playing for his club. He's available for his club. There hasn't been a trial as yet or any judgment. So I don't know on what basis we wouldn't pick him, really. I think before the World Cup, Callum Wilson had a brilliant run of form and hit form just at the right time, and he's obviously had a little bit of an injury that has inhibited his performances in the last few weeks. Ivan's been consistent across the season. Of course, as soon as we named that squad, he had a brilliant game at Manchester City, which was typical. So, but he's playing really well. I like the way his presence in games. You know, I saw his game at Arsenal where I thought he was outstanding, and he deserves his opportunity.
Headlines will be as much about a couple of players you've left out as well. Raheem Sterling and Ben White leaped to mind straight away. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, well, Raheem's not fit, so that's that one.
You would have selected him if he had been.
Yeah, absolutely. With Ben, it's similar with Ben and Trent, really. The three boys that are in as right full-backs, we've got them just ahead of those two. We're blessed in that position with a depth of talent, and it's the hardest position to pick, albeit it's never straightforward criteria, and it's always shifting around a little bit on form as well. But Kyle and Trips were obviously the ones that played during the World Cup, started the games during the World Cup, have been consistent, and Reece coming back is another top player. So yeah, we'd love to have that depth in every position on the field, really.
I remember when you first came in, you said to play for England you've got to be playing regularly for your club and playing well for your club. And have you found that increasingly difficult to stick to that? I'm looking at Lewis Dunk not in, Harry Maguire in, and various other players as well. Is it just too difficult to stick to that idealist philosophy?
It's impossible. We've got to pick our best players where possible, and then there's a balance between, do you go with a certain level of player who's not playing quite as regularly, or a level of player who's physically fit and doing well? But I'm not talking about specific names here, but as a general principle, I feel as though it's interesting talking to other coaches of national teams that they feel the same. You've got to try to pick your best players as long as they can get to a reasonable physical level, and that's where we are with it, really. You'd love to have that depth, but we are shorter than the other big nations on depth of selection. I'm happy with the groups that we've got to select from and the quality we've got to select from, but in certain positions we are short of depth, and those numbers are deteriorating rapidly in the Premier League. That's not a concern for me, I don't think, in the next 18 months, but in 4 or 5 years' time we've got to be really careful on that.
That's a tough message for a lot of players who are pushing and want to get into your squad. If you're playing really well for your club, that might not be enough. That's a difficult message, isn't it? Especially to the likes of Lewis Dunk and Solly March and players like that.
Well, they are playing very well, and their club are playing exceptionally well. I think the coach is doing an amazing job. I think he's got the team playing in a unique style in our league. They're having an outstanding season as a club. Solly we had with the under-21s with us, so he's a player we know well. But at the moment I don't see him ahead of Rashford, Grealish, Foden, Saka in those positions on the field. So